Labour and the Liberal Democrats much closer.
Very pleased indeed to
knowing that voter perception of the party's ratings was of fundamental importance, Labour shrewdly delayed reacting to the second poll by 24 hours, so they could claim they had suddenly surged. And the party's attempts to get voters to switch allegiances right on the very last day are continuing. There's the Phil Willis battle bus up there just about to pull off, and then down this street the Chris Davies bus is also about to go with Cyril Smith on board. The Liberal Democrats, so often the beneficiaries of tactical voting, have problems if Labour start acting as a Pied Piper to disaffected Conservatives. Their candidate was happy with his campaign.
We have to recognise that you obviously, people are voting against as well as voting for, and you've got to give people reasons why they should vote for you, and also suggest why they perhaps should not vote for the other.
But today it wasn't the politicians who had the answers.
This time I voted on national issues. As to the last election where I voted to keep the Tory party out.
I voted Liberal. The reason, because the Liberal Party are the only ones that seem to want to do anything for us.
He was going to vote Liberal, but when I was looking to see Michael Heseltine in Upper Mill, he changed his mind after such a stirring speech.
There is a big question for the opposition parties here, though. How much of a victory can either of them claim if the bulk of their supporters are driven simply by the desire to embarrass the government?
Well, now let's take up the discussion of how things might turn out tonight. John Prescott, wouldn't the best result for you actually be second place?
The best result is to win, and we would hope to win, but the second one would be very good. We would measure that against the other by-election performances, particularly where it's been a Liberal seat. Our real worry in strong Liberal seats is that we get squeezed out, because people are told, as indeed in Littleborough, is that you vote Liberal, you can keep the Tory out, and therefore some of our people tactically switch across.
But if it came to a general election, wouldn't that actually be what you'd want people to do?
Well, in some areas, if you're taking that view of tactic, we don't take that argument. We're going to fight as hard as we can in every constituency. We don't believe there are no-go areas, and Labour is showing, certainly in the last two by-elections, and this one, I think, that we can do well if we fight our corner in these Liberal seats.
But if you encourage people in the belief that a Labour Party under Tony Blair can win every seat, you will inevitably, won't you, let the Conservatives in some seats?
Well, that may be the case, but what is the alternative? To arrive at some kind of pact. We believe that we've got a good case, a good candidates and a good leader, and we think that we can actually win a general election, and of course that's what we're out to do.
And Nick Harvey, this was the first by-election fought since Paddy Ashdown said that you were no longer equidistant between Labour and Conservatives. You were much more towards Labour, and yet you spend all your time fighting Labour.
Well, it's certainly been a very spirited and robust campaign, but we have started all along from a strong position, having been in a close second place at the last election. We fought a lively campaign on the issues. We had a good candidate. We hope to win. We're certainly not going to claim victory until the votes are cast, but we fought a good campaign and we're looking for a good result.
Why did you spend all your energy fighting Labour?
We didn't. We've spent most of our energy fighting on the issue of education, launching petitions for more bobbies on the beat, and on the sort of issues that were coming back to us on the doorsteps as being of concern to the voters.
Roger Freeman, what would be a good result for you?
Well, to win. The problem that Conservative parties had in the last year or so is that we've had a large number of disaffected Tory votes, and therefore I shall be looking tonight at the result, not only at this by-election, but further by-elections running up to the general election in 18 months' time, to see disaffected Tories returning to the Tory party. And I think we've got an excellent chance now to bring the faithful back into the party, enabling us to win the general election. We've resolved the leadership election. We now have a party that's united, certainly on Europe, and with the changes at the centre of government, with Michael Heseltine becoming the Deputy Prime Minister, we're able to relaunch the party in terms of effective presentation.
Well, with the exception of that dog we saw in the film there, apparently it came back to you, what is a realistic result?
Well, we want to win. I think John Hudson is an excellent candidate. He's articulate, he's a humorous Lancastrian, and I hope very much he'll do so well that he'll win.
You really believe that?
Well, I was there yesterday campaigning with him, and I saw real evidence of disaffected Tories returning to the party.
John Prescott, this was by common consent the dirtiest campaign we've seen for a long time in a by-election.
I don't accept that for one moment, you know, but
well,
no doubt you'll go on to try and justify it.
Well, I will, yeah. I mean, this is one of the pieces of literature put out by the Labour office in the constituency. Their Lib Dems dropped candidate after drugs vote. Of course, it was not a reference to the constituency candidate there. It was a reference to a council candidate in Manchester. And it was an attempt to...
I think it was Winchester, actually, wasn't it?
Was it Winchester? Yeah. Sorry.
Did you read the other side of it as well?
Yeah, you can explain that on the other side. But that's that kind of tactic. You think that's legitimate?
Yes, but did you read it? I mean, it made it clear that we were pointing out that really on an issue of drugs, which is an issue in this, in view of the candidates' stated positions, that in one part of the country they had actually got rid of a candidate for holding that view, and in another part of the country the Liberals were actually running with that. Now, we're just pointing out that it all often is the case that the Liberals have different views in different parts of the country. Now, the candidates and what they say and what they believe is quite important in these by-elections particularly, and we were just pointing that out, and I think it's right to do so. By the way, it was we never had to withdraw a leaflet like the Liberals did. There was no kind of accusation that it wasn't true what we put on our leaflets.
Nick Harvey, was that how it seemed to you on the other side of it?
No, certainly not. I mean, you talk about it being a dirty campaign, Jeremy. What I would say was it's unprecedented that a party makes its whole campaigning thrust the demolition of another party's candidate. It wasn't just a question of an odd glancing blow. It was every press conference, every leaflet. They put out a leaflet in the last week of the campaign which mentioned our candidate 20 times and mentioned Tony Blair, the great icon of New Labour, a mere 4 times. And this was very much the tone of the campaign right the way throughout, day after day, imported straight from America for the first time in British politics. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of a result it gets for them on the night.
A number of Liberal by-elections, if you want, where the actual views of the candidates are put very much to the fore. Yes. We actually did it about tax, we did it about drugs, we did it about certain views that the candidates had about an independent Yorkshire. He's quite entitled to have those views. We're quite entitled to say we don't accept that view. And what we see from the electorate, they didn't either.
But is this much more the sort of campaigning we can expect to see now, as you fight on narrower and narrower terms?
You can expect a vigorous campaign from Labour. I think if you look at the results of what we've been getting in these by-elections, I think tonight we'll get a very good result as well. Shows good organisation, good campaigning, fighting on the issues. And by the way, we had more shadow cabinet members than any other, either cabinet or indeed the Liberals, on every issue in every part of the constituency. It was a new type of campaign that we developed there. We did get our message across, and I think that will be reflected in the result.
OK, well, we'll find out sometime about 12:30, 1 o'clock this morning, I think. Thank you.